love Mike Hanson Archives.
You ready to run?
The elitists from Yale and Harvard. Now, I like Yale and Harvard. They're great schools. But when you get over to Oxford, and most of these people have been there, you end up with a socialist-oriented professors who are mad at the United States because we whipped them in 2 wars, and they won't let us forget it. They still have that attitude. We love the English people. In the hotel business in Florida, I had a lot of English people who come. I'm English by heritage and Scottish and Irish, so I'm not talking about anybody ethnically. I'm just talking about practicality and why we have to restore our country to where the people of our country are what are important again.
Okay, now bring the camera down, just or a little too much head. Okay, Charles, are you ready to try to take some calls?
Yes, we'd be glad to take calls.
Okay, in case if you are, just join us, folks.
Yes.
We are visiting live this evening till 10 o'clock with Mr. Charles E. Collins. Charles Collins is running as the Republican candidate for United States President. I know that you have been done fairly well in some of these more recent polls. And in fact, I saw you on, one thing I wanted to mention, I saw you on C-SPAN, and you were tearing up the media. And bless your heart for tearing up
Well, we were telling the truth about what the big mainstream media has done to not give the real truth to the American people. And I think it's good that we have the bypass media, and we will be going to a satellite dish with an uplink to where the people across the country and the folks all over Texas will soon be able to pick up our broadcast. Yeah. And we will be, the only thing they'll have to have is a downlink, which is just a 5-foot dish on a television set.
One thing I want to say to you, Charles, if you don't win the presidency of the United States, please keep your voice out there.
Oh, we will.
We need all the voices. We need all the voices that we can get at this time.
Well, if the American people will come out and help us.
Americans really need all the voices they can get.
Well, you know, we have people that in the Patriot and in the communities of the folks who are trying to help us, who everybody loves our country, but they don't have any money anymore. So that's why the grassroots effort we have has to be so widespread. But what we need help on is possibly getting on the ballot. And if the people in Austin would volunteer and would call, we have a number they can call, and
we'll go ahead and get that.
We'll show those numbers. And then we would coordinate with our chairman here in Austin and in Houston and in Dallas and the larger towns, San Antonio, and if they would, Corpus Christi, if they would come forward and help us get names on the ballot. We need a petition in most every city, and we can get on that ballot, and we need that help, and we'll give those numbers in just a moment.
Okay, folks, we're visiting with Charles E. Collins, Republican president, Republican candidate for United States President. We're going to limit the questions, Charles,
right,
for one reason or another. Just to one question. Just let the caller ask the question and drop the call, and then you can respond to the question.
Be glad to.
Well, go ahead. We'll take the first call.
Yeah, hi, Jeff.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, sir. How are you? Hello?
Hi, how you doing?
Good,
Al Jorgensen. Nice to talk to you. I'd like to know one thing. What is Mr. Collins's views on censorship? I know there's a lot of problems, especially with Dole, other guys in the media want to stifle people like me. I am a creative person. I'm in a band. I'd like to know what his feelings are on censorship.
Okay. Go ahead and drop the call one. Okay, go ahead, John.
I assume he's talking about censorship of the internet and things like this. We certainly think that the First Amendment needs protecting. I would protect the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and all of the Bill of Rights for the American people. I don't think that what they're really talking about is to help anything. They're complaining about pornography on the internet. But that's not the real reason. That's the one main media that is covering the whole nation that the big boys don't control.
Well, they're working on it.
So they're working on it.
Yeah,
I'd be opposed to it. I think that the internet can impose its own censorship upon themselves. If they realize that as president, I'm not going to come in and put a lot of controls on them, I think the people that use the internet would use good language and would use good choice and not putting out pornography on the internet. I think we could depend on them to do that.
Okay, next call.
Yes, am I on?
Yes, sir.
Jeff, great show tonight. I'd like to ask Mr. Charles a question.
All right.
How do you feel and where do you stand on immigration issues and the affirmative action, the whole course of issues there? And I'll hang up and I'll listen.
Okay, you got it, Charles?
Well, yes, our stand has been from the beginning that whatever is constitutional, we support. We believe that with the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, that everyone in our country is born equal, and that everybody ought to have equal treatment, but nobody should have special treatment. As far as immigration, we support legal immigration, but we do not support illegal immigration, and we would make sure that our Border Patrol and our troops, if necessary, were used to patrol and to be able to stop this flow of illegal drugs from these other countries and also the flow of illegal immigrants. But we would just send them back. We would be, if there's an emergency, then they would have the health care that we would always give humanitarian help. But as far as coming in and just settling into the schools without being a legal immigrant, I would be opposed to that.
Okay, next question. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Say, I want to ask Mr. Collins, he's old enough to remember back in the 30s, back in 37, 8, 9, when Hitler was coming into power, and Hitler's dreams was to be a one world order, and he was going to be the king of the world order. He was going to capture all these other nations and put them under his guidance. And don't you think that that's a movement in place right now, is to I think President Bush wanted to be the first king of the world order, and now Clinton is wanting to be, and of course every president that comes along is going to try to be, and I hope if you got elected you wouldn't do it, but it looks like the popular thing to do. And we're doing it in a different way than Hitler did. We're doing it one little nation at a time. We go in and bomb them in pretense of breaking up their wars, and yet, what do you think?
Okay, thanks for your call.
Thank you. Well, of course, I'm opposed to any new world order or one world government. I believe in individual sovereignty, state sovereignty, and our national sovereignty, and I would oppose any move to try to create a one world government, and I would certainly oppose any attempt to try to disarm the American people or to disarm our armed forces. That's the mood, that is the mood of what the United Nations wants to do. They want to make us a third world power, and they want us to be weak, and they want to have all of the power and the arms only in the control of the United Nations, and I'm opposed to that. I'd get us out of the United Nations and the United Nations out of the United States, and I'd go back to America first, without being an isolationist, but being an American. And we have always been benevolent, and we've always helped everybody around the world. But we have to start out thinking about the American people and being prosperous again and not being relegated to third world status.
In a new world order.
In a new world order. I will fight to the death to stop that. We will not have it if I'm president.
All right. Next caller.
Hello, am I on the air?
Yes, sir.
Charles Collins, this is James Pillow, Washington.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, this is Ron Neal calling. I have an organization to stop the war and abolish the Federal Reserve, Mr. Collins, and I was very concerned about the Bosnian conflict. The President recently sent some troops over to Bosnia, and I have learned through my studies that the Federal Reserve is intricately connected with this type of activity. I was wondering if you could detail for the audience exactly how that interrelates the Federal Reserve and the war operations such as the Bosnian and Somalia and these other operations.
Okay, thanks for your call.
That's a good question, and we would certainly tell you that we feel like that the American people should not be, and our armed forces should not be the 911 number of the world. And I think that I would not have sent troops into Bosnia. I think possibly whatever the intentions of Mr. Clinton are, I don't know. And I respect the presidency. I don't always agree with the president. And as president, I would have not done that because the American people are opposed to it. They don't see that we have a vital interest there. And he has put it on the basis that if we don't support it and send troops there, and if Congress doesn't support him, it'll mean lack of support for the armed forces of our country. And that's not so. The American people, but they realize, and they can read, the Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution says only Congress shall have the right to declare war and deploy the troops. And we would make sure that this power was returned to Congress, and we would not have anything to do with the New World Order. We would not let the money powers of the world and the people who own and control the Federal Reserve continue to start wars and then finance both sides. We would reveal this information to the American people, because I'm going to tell the truth to the American people. We're going to have an information office within the White House, and I'm going to invite the talk show hosts from every state to come and host it one night at a time and give the news out that's pertinent to that state. And when you get up there and you start coming from Austin, I want you to bring the news from Austin and tell us what's happening. It will not be censored. We'll put the truth out on the air for all American people to see.
I want to just mention, if you're just joining, we got Charles Collins on the show tonight. Charles is a Republican, believe it or not, because I don't normally have too many Democrats or Republicans on this show. But he's running as a Republican for the United States, for President of the United States. In fact, you just to keep reiterating this, you're doing quite well. You've done California in a recent straw poll.
Yes, I was the first to qualify. I'm not qualified everywhere. I've qualified in New Hampshire and other places. We'll be covering that like a blanket now for the rest of the time until that primary. But I registered first in 1994, and then I registered with all the Republican state chairman, the county chairman, and the secretaries of state of every state. But we are getting out. We will be on next month's cover of Media Bypass.
Yeah, Media Bypass.
Media Bypass is a tremendous magazine. We're on the cover of the Free American, published by Clay Douglas out of Tijeras, New Mexico. We're on the cover of that magazine every week.
Yeah,
and the story is in there telling, it's a monthly publication, but he sends them out in waves, and so we have people calling us from all over the country. We also are supported by the Liberty News from Northfield Falls, Vermont, and they are a fine paper. They tell the truth, and this is what we got to get this message out. We are going to be we're on shortwave, we're on AM, FM, and we will be on community access television and public access television all over the nation, and we'll start that campaign in December, and we have tapes going to every public access television station in the United States.
Good. Good. Well, like I say, you just finished fourth in the California straw poll.
Yes, first in Indiana in the straw poll.
Do you care to mention who the winner who got that one?
There was no endorsement.
No, but I mean Buchanan come in first, right? And then,
not at the end. He was first in the first ballot, and then Mr. Graham and Keyes. And then I came in fourth.
And Dole was way back.
Yes, Dole. All the rest of them were completely out of sight. Yeah. And I stayed to the third round, and then after we told them I would back, I was glad to have been there, and I was dropping out of the contention for that an endorsement. But I got a standing ovation from all of the people at the California Republican Assembly, and I really appreciate it because they respect.
What about now? This is just a rumor. What about you and Pat Buchanan as a ticket?
Well, this was discussed out in Oakland at the CRA, and it was discussed with his sister Bay, and several people said this would make a fine ticket. They said, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, if Pat would give me the carte blanche to be the hatchet man on the Federal Reserve, and they're restoring our money."
Did he talk about the Federal Reserve?
No.
I don't think he did. That's why
we asked him in Arizona, in Phoenix, why he wouldn't join us in discussing this, and he said he couldn't because he didn't feel that he knew enough about it, and that he was afraid they would chew him up on a debate. But we left it with Bay that if he wanted to talk with us about this, and if he would let me we would come back and say we don't want a constitutional convention, and that we wanted to get rid of war powers and emergency powers, return to the Constitution. And if I had carte blanche to prepare all of these papers for him, I'd love to run. I want to see us win this election, but I don't want to be a part of any organization that is tied to the establishment and that is really a part of the problem. I'm not part of the problem because I'm a businessman, and I have a background in economics and political science, and we've studied this Constitution all my life. I read it every day. I find something new in it every day. But we are going to run, back in '64, do you remember the history of Mr. Goldwater? I know you're a young whippersnapper. But,
I do remember the history. I've heard the history.
We are told that Mr. Goldwater was on the ballot as the Republican candidate, and as well he had the endorsement and the draft. He was drafted as the candidate for other parties. We're seeking those draftings by the other parties so that we would have concurrent votes, and we could have a chance to win this election. And I think we can for the American people.
Well, I know you're doing pretty good in these polls, or
yes.
in these straw polls. That's good. Next caller. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Say, pardon me if I sound a little upset tonight. I was kind of watching A&E there for a little bit.
Yes.
They ran this thing on The Move. Are you familiar with that, Mr. Collins?
No, ma'am. I
Philadelphia. Can you hold on? I'm going to turn my TV down a little bit. I'm getting feedback here. Hang on.
Yeah, that's what we...
Okay, it was a group of people in Philadelphia called The Move. And then you had the Weaver situation, and the situation with Mount Carmel, Waco.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was just curious as to what your point of view as far as, I heard you say you'd like to get rid of the Federal Reserve, the IRS, blah, blah, blah.
Right,
what about the ATF and the FBI?
All right, I'll be glad to answer
thanks
those.
for your call.
Thank you. The FBI, the higher echelon of the control of the FBI, we would look at this very seriously, because we think that we would have to eliminate and remove a lot of these people. They've ended up being double agents and triple agents, and we think we would have to replace a lot of these with people that we know who would be very staunch supporters of ours. The BATF, I don't find any provision in the Constitution to provide for the BATF. I would abolish them, and I think that needs to be done. If I had been president at the time of Waco, or at the time of the Randy Weaver and Ruby Ridge, that would not have happened. If I had been president and it had happened, I would have made sure that the findings would have been taken to a grand jury in that hometown, and the grand jury would have the privilege to look at all the facts. I don't think that Congress has that prerogative. I think they have beat around the bush and let it go too long without doing something about it. If I had been president and let it happen, and my attorney general let it happen, I would think that both of us would be subject to indictment for murder. And I would expect to be, had I let this happen as president. But it would not happen with me as president. I would appoint an attorney general who would protect the Bill of Rights and the Constitution for the American people. It would be the attorney general against any moves against our rights, instead of the attorney general oppressing the American people and taking away the rights that belong to us, that God gave to us, and that we gave a part of those rights back to state government and to federal government. But all power lies in the American people, who have God-given rights, and we would return those rights and sovereignty to the people.
Okay, next call.
Hi, Mr. Collins.
Hello.
I think you have really good intentions, and I hope you beat Bill Clinton, because there's nothing like having another Republican in the House.
Thanks for your call.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to run real hard, and we're going to try to be worthy of your respect and your confidence in our campaign, because it is for the American people, not for me personally. I will benefit by whatever benefits I get for you.
Okay, next call.
Yes, I got the question. What do you feel about the conscientious effort of the constitutionality made by the white
I forget how. I didn't
understand that.
Yeah. All right.
We lost.
Go ahead, Charles. But go ahead with that one caller about wishing you luck.
Yeah, we appreciate them calling in and wishing us luck, because it's going to take a lot of luck and a lot of work, and the harder you work, the luckier you get. And we're going to ask all of the people in the Austin and in the Texas area to help us to get on the ballot as a Republican. And if you're called upon, don't consider it as an endorsement. If you want to endorse Charles Collins, we'll give you a bank of numbers in a minute that you can call. But if you believe in fair play, if you believe in being able to choose who you want to run instead of having the parties and the chairman of the Republican Party and of the chairman of the RNC determining who's going to be able to run in each party, then we think that fair play means that everybody has a level playing field. And if you take out these papers that we'll get to you and get signatures of qualified voters and then return them to our chairman here in Austin, we would appreciate it so we can get on the ballot.
Okay, folks, we're visiting with Charles Collins, Republican presidential candidate. He just recently finished 4th in a California straw poll. Next call.
Yeah, hi, I have a comment and a question.
Okay.
My comment is, I feel like a woman should be running for president, and this is why. It has been the men for as long as I know that have done all of the money making and the war making and the beheading and the subjugating of entire races into slavery. It has been the men who have done the raping and the robbing and the pillaging, and it doesn't seem like they like what the world has become, and they have no one but themselves to thank. So I think a woman should come in and clean up the mess like they have been doing for hundreds of years, and once the mess has been cleaned up, let her go ahead and work on through, because women, have you ever seen a woman clean up after another woman? No. They clean as they go, and they make things work. So how would you feel to be running against another woman?
Thanks for your call.
Well, I am running against another woman. Dr. Harders is in the Democratic Party, and she supports our positions. And she is a Dr. Harders is a Democrat, and she's running, and she has been.
She knows about the Fed and all that.
Yes, she is not as knowledgeable as she might be, but she has the right ideas about our country, and she's a nice lady. I've talked with her, and we've talked to her campaign chairman, and I agree with you, ma'am, on the phone that the caller. We do need to have someone with integrity who will change things and clean up the mess. I haven't had that opportunity before. I'm not part of the problem. I didn't create this problem in Washington. I probably, along with you, created part of the problem because I didn't complain loud enough. I didn't say enough about what was happening to us. And I will complain now from here on out, and I will represent you. And if I am elected, I want you to know that my wife is my best friend, along with my 3 daughters and my 2 granddaughters. And I respect women. And I respect the fact that we do have to stop sending our young people, men and women, to wars overseas and to keep us out of these foreign entanglements that President Washington recommended that we stay out of.
Okay, next call. Charles Collins, running for president on the Republican side. Republican ticket.
I would like to know what you're doing on abortion.
Well, that's a very good...
Thanks for your call.
Thank you. That's a very good question, because I have read the Constitution many times, and I think that this is an individual and a state issue. The state of Wisconsin and the state of Illinois have both passed resolutions and laws that say that they consider conception and pregnancy as a stage of human development, and that an unborn child is a human being. But this is something, and that, of course, with that assumption, then there's 500 years of law that protect the unborn child. We just read in the paper yesterday where a woman had been killed, and her unborn child was delivered but died, and so there was going to be 2 indictments for murder. And we know that this is a divisive issue across the land, but I am pro-life, my wife is pro-life. We have worked very hard in our communities to provide homes and adoptees for children who were not wanted and who were unexpected, and we would continue to do so. But then the other problems that come from abortion, and I don't think we ought to pay for it. I don't find that the American Constitution allows us to pay for abortions here, and I don't agree that we should have favored nation status for China, where they demand abortion, and there are all kind of atrocities about the aborted fetus, and I don't think we ought to support that by giving favored nation status to a country like China.
Okay, Charles E. Collins, next call. Okay, we got to screen him yet. Okay.
All right.
Well, why don't we go ahead and put his address up there? Okay, anybody interested in the Charles Collins campaign for United States President? Here's the information.
And we want to thank everybody for watching and calling in, and we'd like for you to call. We'll show the numbers. This is the address where we receive our mail. Is at the main office is in Forsyth, Georgia, at 31029. It's Charles Collins for President. And if you want to write in for literature and find out how you can help our campaign, write to this address. Now our numbers, write it down, and then here are the numbers that you can call or fax, and you can get into our office if you call these numbers. We have an 800 number you see there, 994-8322. And if you call that number and try it, it does stay very busy because we're on talk shows across the nation, an average of 6 hours every day. So you can tell the response we're getting. And we have other phones being added. They're rollover rotary banks that are going in now. But 994-8219, and then 912-994-1695 and 1790. Our fax number is dedicated, and you fax through and we will get you an answer right back. But it's 912-994-7995. We would appreciate your calling in or faxing in or writing to us and find out how you can help the Collins campaign, because if you help us take back our country, it's to your benefit and your children and your grandchildren not to grow up with a tremendous national debt and not to have to pay that debt off when it's mathematically impossible. And we'd like for you to join in this campaign. We're going to win with the help of the American people.
Well, I think you're doing an excellent job, Charles. I really do. Okay, I want to just mention just briefly here some more of now you've got your, some more positions here that we've got here.
Well, while you're looking, let's talk about. We have a lot of people concerned about Bosnia, and also
let's go into Bosnia.
They're concerned about Michael New and his stand not to wear the blue patch or the blue beret of the United Nations. And I commend Michael New, and I don't think he should be court-martialed. I was told that the 13th is the day he's to be court-martialed. They moved it up quickly, and his folks were trying to get to where they could fly over there. I know Daniel New, and I've talked to him and to his wife, the mother and father of Michael. I would like to encourage everybody, every enlisted man, every non-com, and every officer to refuse to go to Bosnia wearing the blue patches of the United Nations. That's why they switched over to NATO. It's under the auspices of NATO now, and but we think that in Bosnia, if we had a vital national interest, and if Congress declared war, then we would be constitutional under Article 1, Section 8. A lot of the people also are concerned about Social Security. This is a big item with the people. They want to know, what would you do about it? Well, with Social Security, we know that the people have paid all of this money into the contract.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and finish your point. We got some screen call. We're screening our calls. We don't normally screen our calls, but we're screening them. Well, go ahead and finish your point.
Yes, we would cut off there, but we know that we have to do so many things to change our country and the people who we are really concerned about. And we would do this to help out and to protect our land for our children and our grandchildren. But in Social Security, we need to put an individual retirement account behind every Social Security account, and we need to stop the federal government from dipping into this fund and taking money out and being able to put an IOU in there that is non-interest bearing. Right. And I would certainly stop this. And on welfare, the issues, I think that we ought to send welfare back to the states without any mandates and without the people paying any income taxes. We could return to the practicality of the 1930s and the 1940s when we had county welfare boards that brought together, we had church charity, we had true charities of people helping people, and then we had families helping those who were in need, and therefore nobody would be hurt in our country. We wouldn't take a check away from anybody without first having either a job for them and creating a lot of opportunity where in the private sector they could get a job, or we would help them to be able to work their way off of welfare. This is what most people want.
Okay, Charles, we're visiting with Charles Collins, Republican presidential candidate. Again, I just keep reiterating this because I think this is your finish of fourth in the California straw poll is, what would you consider that to be your most impressive up to this point?
Yes, that, and
you're gaining ground. You're gaining.
Well, we just had a poll in Indiana. We finished first in that poll. There was a straw poll held there, and there was a straw poll held amongst the people who use the internet, and we finished first out of all the candidates, Republican, Democrat, Independents, and everybody. And then on the Fax Tree Network, they polled about 1,500 people, and we finished first in that poll. So we're gaining, and we
You know how I feel about polls.
Yes. Well, but these are ones that we did not institute or ask for.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the polls are asked for, and they're run by the people who are running. I didn't even know about them until they'd been done.
Of course, I believe that the powers use polls to manipulate opinion.
Yes, they probably do.
Yeah.
And if we had known it was happening, I only found out about them after they'd already been done.
Yeah.
And people calling in, they'd heard what was said over radio talk shows of different people who had used.
I heard you on Carl. Well, I didn't but you were on Carl Wigglesworth here. I can say I know you've been on all of them. So you're doing.
We're across the nation.
You're getting out there.
Wonderful talk show host in our country.
All right, Charles Collins, Republican presidential candidate. You're on the air.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Charles.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I got I guess I was going to cut to the quick on this. Charles, what's your position on the war on drugs?
Thanks for your call. War on drugs.
Well, I think that we should, I would, of course, get rid of I don't believe that we should have a war on drugs. This perpetuates the emergency and war powers of the presidency, and the war on drugs has been a failure. I think that we would be able to turn our Border Patrol loose. They've told me down below San Diego that they were cross-trained. They were capable of stopping the influx of illegal drugs. They were also capable of stopping the influx of illegal immigrants. If their superiors hadn't told them to quit. And I would not issue that order ever.
Let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with the Committee of 300?
Yes.
How they're actually orchestrating the drug trade?
Yes.
You are aware of that?
I'm aware of
the big problem, yeah.
Well, it is a big problem, and it's one of these things that's it's nebulous. You can't put your hands on it. You know it's there. And you know back...
but as President of the United States, you got to stop it. If you're a patriotic American,
we would be in a position to investigate this with the authority then.
Yeah.
Now it's something that the people are bringing to us. But
Let me ask you a question. Sure. How long do you think you'll live when you get elected?
Oh, we'll live to ripe old age because we're going to get patriot people and real friends to go to Washington to be our security. I'm not going to depend on the Secret Service that's there.
Yes, sir.
We may have a lot of good people in Secret Service, but we've had too many reports of the Aldrich Ames type of people who were triple agents and who were selling out our country. I know enough people who will go to Washington and all over the country to protect my life and my family, and who will take care of the White House and offer security. But we're going to offer the American people a presidency that they can feel comfortable with, and I think that they'll feel like that they can enjoy life again. I'm not going to sit up nights trying to figure out ways to hurt the American people, and that's what it looks like has been happening over the past few years.
It's all called a New World Order.
Yes. Trying to get...
Go, Charles Collins, Republican presidential candidate, you're on the air.
Yes, Mr. Collins?
Hello.
Hello there. On the Social Security, I believe that it's totally voluntary, but when you ask anybody, they say it's not. It's automatic and it has to be. Is that right or wrong, or do you know?
Well, I think it should be voluntary, but you know, if the people who elect not to pay into Social Security, we've had a lot of people. Yes, they take that. We've had a lot of people tell us that they do not know what these people would do unless they signed an agreement that they would never have to take welfare because they did not pay into Social Security, and by some reason something happened to them. But let me tell you what our feeling on it is.
Let me just ask you, Social Security was set up voluntarily.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. It was set up voluntarily.
Right.
Now, if we make it a true annuity for you, and we put an IRA behind every account, and then let you retire according to your contract with Social Security, and then if you die, when you die, everybody's going to die, when you die, then that is a true annuity where the residual goes to your family with no inheritance or estate taxes. We would try to fix it to where you could put more into Social Security and have a true IRA behind your account, and then it would mean more to you because it would be a real savings account for you, a retirement for you, and a residual that would be an inheritance for your family when you died. And we've gotten great acceptance to this plan across the nation because we don't want anybody in our country to be forced to do something they don't want to do. But we want to offer them the greater advantages, and they can pay more into Social Security than they really have to, and then get bigger benefits when they retire.
Okay, next caller.
Hi, I didn't quite understand those words that you used, residual and IRA and all that. I'm not too educated on that stuff. But what I'm trying, go ahead and explain that while I try and think of what I really called in to ask about.
All right. When we're talking about Social Security, it's when you retire and you have a contract that says you're to receive $500 or $600, $700, $800 a month, depending on the amount of money you've paid into Social Security. This would be backed by an individual retirement account. And then what's left over, that's the residual. Right now, if I die today, I haven't received but very little Social Security. If I die today, all of the money that's left in my account is defaulted to the government, and my family gets nothing. But what's left over of my individual retirement account that we would institute for all of the people in the Social Security program, what's left over would go to your heirs, your children, without any inheritance or estate taxes.
Oh, thank you very much for that explanation. Now I remembered what I really called in for earlier. You had said something about stopping the war on drugs.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't you know that obviously you're not a crooked politician?
That's right.
Because if you were, you could not say that, you know, because the way the politicians and the people in the government make their money is to take and plant stuff on me, take and put my house into forfeiture without charging me with anything, and then turn around and they gain from the profits, saying, well, the profits are going to the city. Now, the way I know this is because I've seen it happen to other people, yet I'm part of the city and I've never made any of the profits. So whose pockets are these illicit gains going into? And they can't tell me crime does not pay. It pays for the government and the politicians. Thank you.
Thanks for your call.
Well, thank you, and I am not a politician, and I agree with you that there has been a profit on drugs by some politicians. And we have been told that there is record of the drugs that have been imported by the heads of our government, in fact, right out of the presidency office, either before they were president or after they became president. This would not happen with me, and I would stop any of these forfeitures, and we would stop it. I don't believe in, I had a friend out here in Texas who had some ranch hands put some marijuana in his barn. They ended up fining him and putting him out of business when he had done nothing, but they said he had due diligence to be performed to make sure that nothing like that was stored on his property. And he couldn't know that. And that's unfair to the American people. I'm going to stop this oppression, the abuse, and the high-handed, jackbooted thug operations that hurt the American people. I just want to make the American people a good president in the tenor and the tradition of President George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams, and my beloved Andy Jackson. And I think they had the most to lose, and they did the most for our country. And I would try to emulate them or be like them for the American people.
All right, Charles, next call. We're visiting with Charles Collins, Republican presidential candidate for the U.S. president.
Hi, I'd like to make a statement and a question.
Sure.
Okay, my statement is if you hit the internet pretty hard, I think that you could get a few thousand votes from the internet. And my question is, from the foreigners, what are you going to do on that?
Thanks
I mean, like, how many foreigners are you going to let in?
Thanks for your call. Go ahead.
Well, we have a quota already now. You're talking about foreigners. Everybody who has, except our Native American Indians, have been foreigners at one time or another. And we have a legal immigration limit and a quota. And we have become a great nation by having an intermixing and people bringing in their particular talents. But we also are being smothered now by illegal immigration. And I would deport those that are illegal, and I would tell them to get in line and to whatever their quota is within their country to be sure and try to come back and be a legal alien and learn how to speak English while they're about it. We should, I'm trying to learn several languages now so I can be a better, excuse me, so I can be a better president. And I'm listening to tapes every day trying to fathom a lot of these the languages. I know a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of French. I'm trying to learn Russian, trying to learn Estonian, and they're very difficult, and we're trying to learn Japanese by tapes, and it's very difficult to do. But we would certainly support legal immigration. And I don't, what was her first question? I don't
know. She said to use the internet.
Yes, and we thank you for your comment about the internet. We expect to get millions of votes from the internet, and we on the polls that were taken by the people who use the internet. We have a web page, and we use internet. We have email, and we certainly believe in this as an alternative method of getting the message out of what Charles Collins stands for and what I want to do for the American people. Thank you for the call.
And you said that the fact that you had finished first amongst all the candidates.
Yes, when they took the poll.
Democrat, Republican, everybody.
Yes.
All right. Well, we gotta get that in.
Okay.
You're doing a good job, Collins. All right, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'd first like to say, Jeff, I've been watching you for a while, and I think you're right on the mark.
Thanks.
A question for Charles, a couple of questions, really. Mr. Collins,
yes,
what are your opinions, if any, on the Trilateral Commission and the CFR? And secondly, if you make Social Security voluntary and you put it into an IRA, what would be the difference in that and just opening a regular IRA?
Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I am not sponsored by any of the Council on Foreign Relations or the Trilateral Commission or anyone in the New World Order regimen. And also about Social Security, we would be able to help the people who are already on Social Security. That's the ones we're talking about putting an IRA behind it. But we're also giving you a safety net. So if anything happens to you, you would already be on a Social Security program, and the IRA would only be good as long as you contributed to it. And if the IRA is behind the Social Security, it gives you additional strength. It gives you a guaranteed amount of money going to be there upon retirement, and it also gives you an inheritance for your children and grandchildren. We think it's a great idea, and we've had economists all over the country say that it will make more people want to give more voluntarily into the Social Security program. And I would introduce a law, I would have it in the hopper on the first day we were in office to make it illegal and a felony for any congressman to authorize, or any president to authorize, spiriting this money out of the Social Security account because it's a non-budgeted item, and then try to replace it with these IOUs. I would never let that happen to the American people again.
Okay, folks, we're visiting with Charles Collins. There's a couple things I got to mention here. First off, I want to thank our crew here. We've got, in fact, as a matter of fact, we have a pretty good little entourage down here in the studio today.
We have a wonderful group down. We appreciate it.
We've changed up the show. I want to mention Mike Hanson show, River City Talk, on Tuesdays from 9 to 10:30 p.m. And Charles, we got about 12 more minutes here. Let's try a few more calls.
All right.
There's a lot of also want to talk to you. We're visiting Charles Collins, Republican presidential candidate. Recently finished 4th in a California straw poll. You're on the air.
Yeah, I was wanting to know, when is it that you guys in the government are going to start treating the Indians right?
Okay, thanks for your question.
That's a great question, because I have responded to the people down in the Native Americans in Albuquerque, and they invited me back down to Farmington and to different towns in that area to be put into as an honorary chief amongst the 2 tribes that they're talking about in that area. I also have strong support among the Pequots and the Indians in Connecticut, and we have told them that I will never violate a treaty that the Indians have had made with the United States of America. We will put a bond to that effect. If the government does anything to violate a treaty that we've already effected with the Native Americans, then it's theirs without any discussion. We'll put 3 people from the Indian nations on that tribunal, and we'll put 3 people from government, and that I would be able to select. But this would be fair to the Indians. I think this a travesty of what happened to the Native Americans, and I would stop it, and I would want them to have equal and better treatment, at least equal, of everybody in the United States.
Okay, next question. Okay, none screen yet. Okay. Okay, Charles, go ahead. You've got, just go ahead until we get some more screen calls.
Well, we want to thank the people all over the country for their responses, because as one person, I'm just an ordinary working man with a lot of experience, and I have been successful in business. But I also know that I am not significant unless I have a world of help and support from the American people. And if they will enter into a coalition with me, I will represent them, the working people, the small business people, the mothers, the fathers, and all of the people who care about their children and about America. And I will never let them down. And we have proposed to put the president's salary into escrow and not take it if we don't do what we tell the people we're going to do. If I do what I tell you I'm going to do, and I try and I do everything I can with Congress, I get the bills introduced and I push hard to do the things to restore America, then I think we would be paid. Otherwise, you wouldn't owe us anything.
Okay. One more time with if you're interested in the Charles Collins for President campaign, go ahead, Charles. I just want to mention that like I say, you're doing pretty good in the polls.
Well, we have the information here on the screen. If the people in Texas will help us, and they have responded tremendously to our need for folks to get petitions signed, to give us a fair and equal opportunity to be on the ballot in Texas. And if you want to help, you can write to this number, and then we will show the telephone numbers in just a moment so that you can know. But take time to write down. It's just Charles Collins for President, P.O. Box 27, Forsyth, Georgia, 31029. And we will receive this and we will answer it the same day and get you literature out, bumper stickers, whatever you request, so that you can be a part of this victory in 96.
Okay, could we switch over to the numbers real quick?
Yes, now these numbers are those that you can reach us in the Georgia office, the main office for the campaign, 912-994-8219, 1695, and 1790. We have an 800 number that you may be able to come in on, and it's 994-8322. And we have a dedicated fax number of 912-994-7995. We'd appreciate you faxing us or calling or writing to us at that P.O. Box 27, Forsyth, Georgia, 31029.
Okay, let's get the address up one more time. Okay, we'll get to that. We'll switch to that in a minute. Okay, let's go. Okay, Charles, we've got about 7 minutes here. And before we just close here, I want to say that I've been hearing 6 months ago. I never heard of you. I have to admit it. I've actually had callers calling on my show, bringing your name up. I have, and then started. I heard your name like 6 months ago. I've been hearing it more and more and more. So obviously you have done an excellent job over the last 14 months trying to expose what's being done to the American people. And I want to commend you, sir, for your efforts, and I appreciate you coming on the Jeff Davis Show.
Oh, I appreciate it, Jeff. I thank you for letting me come, and because I love the American people, and I want to get out here and I want to do all the things I need to do. I'll never let the people down. I won't quit until November of next year, and this election is won. We appeared on the Chuck Harder show the other day on TV and radio, and Chuck doesn't ordinarily give out telephone numbers of the people on the show.
All right.
But he said, I'm going to have to give these out because I don't want my office flooded with the calls that this man will bring into the show. So he gave out our number about 10 times, and we really appreciated Chuck doing that. We've been out in the desert with Dave Hingston. We've been at KDNO with Richard Palmquist. We've been up in the Midwest with Derry Brownfield. We've been with Dr. Norm Resnick. We've been with Anthony Hilder. We've been with Richard Usla up from New England, and Chuck Harder, Jerry Hughes, and a lot of people from all over, up in Washington State and in the Midwest. And we appreciate everybody helping us, because getting the message out is what's important. If we can't tell the people and the major media won't touch us, then it has to be radio and talk shows, and it has to be television shows such as yours that give the people the truth. And we are going to deal in truth always with the American people. If we tell you the truth, I don't have to wonder tomorrow what I said yesterday.
That's right.
Always deal with the truth.
The truth cannot be discredited.
No.
Okay, we got a call. Go ahead. Take this quick call here real quick.
Okay.
Go ahead, caller.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hello.
I was wondering if you'd do me a favor real quick and
All right.
explain for me the difference between a democracy and a republic. And have you been on the Lou Epton show in Las Vegas?
Yes, ma'am, and Lou Epton is a great host, and I've been on there, and I appreciate it. And there's a difference that we are a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy. A democracy has been described as an example is a wolf and two sheep deciding on what's for dinner. And the two sheep don't have much opportunity. But if we have a constitutional republic, one person has as much right as all 260 million other Americans. And we believe that the Declaration of Independence declaring that all men are created equal. We believe in equality for the American people. We don't believe in special treatment for anybody. I don't want special treatment for me. I just want an equal treatment and a level playing field.
Let's try another call. We got another call ready yet? We'll try another call. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, have you ever eaten poo-poo?
Okay, can't hear. Okay, you're on the air. Hello?
Yes. Can you please tell me the capital of Somalia?
Okay. All right, Charles, we've got about 3 minutes to go here. And I want you, once again, I do. Okay, somebody wants to ask you quickly about the IRS, just quickly. Okay, the IRS, tell us about.
Well, the IRS was started as a private corporation for profit, chartered in the state of Delaware, and it was created to collect the income taxes to pay on the national debt to the Federal Reserve.
To the Federal Reserve.
To the Federal Reserve,
Right.
but now it's and it is a private corporation, and if you will look at your envelopes that they send to you, it will say on there, it doesn't say official business, they put postage on it.
Yeah.
And but the IRS, there are a lot of good people that work for Internal Revenue, and we want to provide employment for them. Even though we get rid of the IRS, we'd like to have a placement board within the White House in our Labor Department that would match the competent people with the good jobs that will be appearing in the private sector. We're not going to do anything. If you have unemployed, regardless of where they're coming from, you're hurting the nation. We want to help the nation, and the IRS now, as I understand it, is chartered in the great state of Nevada. But this is we have not been to the state of Nevada to back this up, but we have been told by people who have been there that it was chartered in Nevada. But we have the actual original charter of the private corporation in Delaware. Well,
Okay.
we appreciate that
quickly,
question.
you got a minute here, Charles.
All right.
Go ahead. You give us
All
your
right.
message.
Well, I want to let the people know that we can win it. You may have heard a lot of times say, well, I'm going to vote for this one or that one, and I've been voting for the lesser of 2 or 3 evils every time I've had an election and an opportunity to vote. But if you vote for the lesser of 3 evils, you still vote for an evil.
Yes, sir.
We're going to offer the people a chance to recover their nation, to take it back, and to be able to offer their children real opportunity. This is what's important. We want a strong country militarily, monetarily, and spiritually, and we want a strong nation where we have patriotism is not a dirty word. We think that our patriots such as George Washington would bear for us to copy and emulate, and we would do this for the American people. We thank you for letting us come on board the show tonight. We thank all the people of Austin and of all Texas that can watch this. And if you would like to help us,
One
then
more
we'll
time
put on
quickly.
the screen the information of how you can write and how you can call us.
Okay, go ahead quickly.
All right, this is just Charles Collins for President, P.O. Box 27, Forsyth, Georgia, 31029.
And the number?
And the numbers are 912-994-8219. And then the
Just
last...
give the 800, 'cause
Yes,
I want to bring you
the
up to
800-994-8322.
Okay, bring us back up. Once again, Charles Collins.
Thank you,
We got
sir.
10 seconds. I
All right.
appreciate you coming on the Jeff Davis Show.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck in
All
your
right.
run for the White House, sir.
We'll be back to see you.
Okay, appreciate
Thank you.
it. God bless you all.
Bye, everybody.
Long live the Constitution! God bless America! And death to the New World Order! We shall, we must, and we will prevail because we're willing to stand up against what's happening. God bless the Republic and the United States! And death to the New World Order! Yeah! All right! Yeah! Yes, thank you very much, folks.